Today on the Rock Feed podcast, we're joined by a very special guest from one of my favorite bands for quite some time. We're joined by Spencer from Underoath. Dude, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you taking the time out from your busy schedule.
Yeah, man. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Yeah, appreciate all the any sort of press you can get,
Well, I mean, you guys have been doing it for quite some time. You've done so many things, but the new record, The Place After This One, is out everywhere now, and it's so cool. Obviously, you guys were on a hiatus for a really long time, and to see you back in full swing and really one of the best live bands out there, I think, is special. And talk about, after all of these years being together as a band, has your creative process changed over the years?
I don't know if it's really changed as much as it's evolved. I think we're the same creative force. It's kind of always been me and Aaron and Tim and Chris, as far as the writing goes. But really, I think as the tools have evolved, we've kind of evolved with that as well. Like, it used to be like you didn't used to be able to have, Pro Tools and all this stuff on your computer to make a demo anywhere. We used to have to write in like a garage band type setting and then pay a lot of money to go record a record that would hopefully sound halfway decent. When you didn't have millions of dollars back in the day, like we never did. So I think nowadays is a little bit different because you can write and record at the same time, and you can kind of capture the magic of, the first time you get that song right, which to me I think is really important because, the lightning in a bottle, so to speak, only happens kind of once per song. I don't like rehashing and rehashing and rehashing until the song kind of loses its life.
It seems like that is sort of the magic of bands that have had the type of success that yours has, which is that you kind of go with the first instinct on a song. You don't really overthink it after that.
Yeah, I think Underoath is a prime example of overthinkers.
Really?
Like, oh yeah, we view like every song like it's our permanent identity, which I think is a good thing and a bad thing. I think, it caused a lot of arguments over the years, but I think now, we had to bring a producer back in the room to not overthink it because we self-produced Voyeurist, which in a way, like a lot of the demos, I think were better than the final. And the final, I'm proud of it, but I think we really do overthink and re-record and redo and rethink and rewrite and redo and rethink and rewrite. And I think it becomes a little bit lifeless, so to speak, when you do that. So this time around, we pulled in a producer who kept us moving and kept our hands off the computer in a way. So we were more able to concentrate on the actual music and the songwriting and less editing and, tuning and, all that shit. So
Yeah, it seems like that is kind of one of the biggest stressors of being in a band is kind of the internal relationship between the members, especially when it comes to being in the studio and writing new music. I do think it's a testament to Underoath, though, that you all are, this new album, it seems like is getting some of the best feedback that you've gotten in recent years. It seems like this is really connecting strong with the fans. Is that coming across to you guys?
I mean, yes and no. I think we steer clear of the comment sections as much as we can.
Smart.
I think in life, within relationships, if you try to become a people pleaser, how does that ever turn out for you? I mean, you can get online and read about it. It's a toxic thing that we do to ourselves if we become people pleasers and we stop worrying about our own mental health and our own boundaries, our own morals, and we're bending and bending and bending for all these other people, and then you've kind of lost where you stand on things and who you are and what you feel, what you believe in, and how you want to be treated, and the kind of people you actually want to be around. So now let's take that same mentality and kind of adapt it to being a creative, be it your podcast or my music, right? if you started doing what just the fans wanted constantly, and you're interviewing a bunch of people that you don't really have any interest talking to, what's going to happen to your station? You are going to see a downfall probably because people are going to start to read into the fact that you're not even engaged in the conversation because you don't really want to be there in the first place.
Right.
And you're going to start to kind of feel like, oh, I'm wasting my time doing this podcast and my art. And like my voice is now muted by and neutered by the public telling me to do this and do this
Yeah.
and do this when I don't want to. So I think as a songwriter, you've got to have the same mentality. And for me, it's just looking around the room. If Aaron and Tim and Chris and Grant are fucking stoked and I am stoked, that's all that I care about. And then the other opinion I look by, it's not management, it's not the label. No offense, guys, don't fucking care. I look at the producer, and if that dude who's willing to put his name on our record and put his neck on the line, knowing he's gonna get the people that I'm making this with are fucking stoked and they are excited. Do I hope that it comes across to people? Yeah, just the same way that when I get a new Nine Inch Nails record or Deftones record or whatever that I love, Radiohead, like I want to get it. And if I don't, I'm not going to be mad and run off to their Instagram and tell them that they fucking suck and they should kill themselves. Like,
Right.
like that's not what I'm going to do. I think that is that what people do? Yeah, trolls are real. I mean, look, South Park made fun of it 10 years ago. Of course it's real. Do I care? No. And if I did, I think my music would suffer. And I think all of Underoath fans would start to suffer. And I think we just wouldn't be a band anymore, like we've already done once before. I think pushing creative boundaries and in stoking each other out as a band and like, you can't forget it's not just the songs you hear on Spotify. It's we live in the fucking metal tube going down the road. We spend time away from our families and our children, like to do this and to make music that we love. And, to get on stage playing music that you love keeps you, like puts fuel in the tank. The engine won't run without that fuel. And I think if you start making stuff that you don't want to make just to appease your fans from 20 years ago that aren't going to go to the show anyway because they're, at home with kids and 9 to 5s, then you're going to eventually not be happy doing it. So I think really for me, it's looking at like, do I have something to say? Am I saying it the way that I want to say it? And is my band excited about it? And sonically, does it sound the way what am I looking for? I'm trying to create what I want to hear in heavy music. Cause I think growing up in the heavy music scene and being around it since I was a teenager, I've seen it go through many phases and a lot of stuff I don't like about it. I'm not thrilled with a lot of heavy music I hear today. So what am I trying to create? I'm trying to create what I want to hear. And if I can do that, then I'm happy. Do I think it's going to be what everyone wants to hear? No. We're not a pop act. You're not trying to capture the appeal of everyone on the planet. Like I hope that people that dig our band and people that didn't dig our band before will dig this. And if I piss off a few fans and they're the kind of people that are going to leave for good, then hopefully I grabbed more fans than I lost. That's a win for me. So
I got to tell you, that is a very profound mindset that you have. I really, really respect the hell out of that because you see a lot of people who are creating for, maybe universal approval. I definitely feel that. And, you talk about kind of the current landscape of rock and heavy metal. Like, what do you think maybe it's missing today that it had in the past? Because there's definitely that magic from the past.
To me, I'm always searching for that feeling that, it's like it's a tension, it's an anxiety for me. It was like a almost scary kind of feeling, like growing up, hearing some of this stuff for the first time. And I don't think you can ever. I think people try to go feel how they felt the first time. It's like you're not going to recreate that, but you can tap into the things that made you feel a certain way. We're not going to go back to the past and recreate what we created, but like, what's that feeling I'm looking for? What gives me that feeling that like Nine Inch Nails gave me and Slipknot gave me the first time I heard it, and Converge and Dillinger Escape Plan the first time I heard it, and and a lot of that to me is like it has that fast That's why there's like a lot of fast drum and bass kind of feeling on this record. Is that like the Prodigy, like that shit made
Yeah.
me feel something when I was a kid, and it was like, and that's a different genre, but there's that feeling, and to me, that's the feeling what heavy music should. I don't care if it's an Alice in Chains song that's slow and fucking, but you feel it. There's something there. There's a feeling that I'm looking for. So I just try to find that, when I'm creating it. Just, it could be a slow song, it could be a heavy song, it could be a 9 minute long song. I don't care as long as I'm hitting that feeling. And I think the difference in heavy music is I think it became more popular, which is great for all of us, and it's growing. I think the scene's at um, coming back to an all-time high right now.
Yeah.
We're seeing it all across the board, which is exciting. But I think with that comes a lot of there's more, with Spotify, there's just more artists to flip through, and then there's more of the same. There's more people biting each other, and then there's more strive for success. And I don't think trying to be successful is bad, but just going about it an unorganic way is where I think you're getting a lot of the watered down sound. And I think if that's where your heart is, like, you know, if that's the kind of music you've always made, for example, like more of a radio rock type of band that's been there from the get go, that's what they make. Like Lincoln Park was Lincoln Park for since I was in middle school. Um, and then when the scene kind of adapted into like, oh, if we make these songs that are all singing and big choruses, and I think it became like a hit machine, just like all the other genres. There are co-writing, and I'm not dogging any of this. I think co-writing can be very productive and healthy because you get different perspectives and you can learn from each other if you've got an open mind. Um, but when it becomes about hit, 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 we don't got a hit. Let's make a hit, a hit, a hit, a chorus. So where's the hook? Where's the hook? Where's the hook? It's like, I don't know. I see that in a lot of other genres, and I know that's part of my genre now too. But we try to do that in a different way, where we're making music that we care about, that we love, and our songwriting tastes have changed as we've gotten older. Like we like all sorts of music, like like I love a good chorus, but that doesn't mean every song Underoath makes needs to have one of those. So, but I think putting elements into your song that you like and it's true to you is great. But I think the heavy music scene has gotten watered down, but that's because it's growing. So you can't have both, right? So
You mentioned, a lot of bands kind of biting each other, or, people that kind of take inspiration from each other's music. Over the years, Underoath, you guys have been so influential with so many bands. Is that something that some people get bent out of shape about it? Does it inspire you? Does it make you happy? Does it bum you out? Like, have you noticed that?
I don't know. I don't think I really notice anymore. I think when I was younger, maybe more so. I think now, everyone just quotes "Bring Me the Horizon" for anything that anyone's doing that's heavy or catchy or electronic or. So I don't know. I don't know. I'll have to ask Oli how he feels about that. But um, I love those guys.
Of course, yeah.
And I love their band. I think they're super creative and pushing the boundaries. But I feel like they get blamed for most, like everyone biting people nowadays. So I don't think anyone says that they bite Underoath anymore. I think we kind of, when we broke up for a while, I think people moved on, and now we just make music that we love, and hopefully it resonates. And I see, the positive things that I see is I see growth, and I know Underoath, every time we come through on tour, it's bigger than the time before. And
Yeah.
that's really, really inspiring for me. And I know we're always pushing our envelope and pushing each other out of our comfort zones, and that's exciting to me. Whether it's pushing the scene or not, I don't know. I mean, I also try not to listen to. I mean, I check out all of my peers when they release new songs and new music, but I try not to constantly listen to heavy music because I'm around it so much. So I find myself listening to a lot of other genres, and I have for my whole life. I was never like a metal kid or a hardcore kid. I'm a music guy. I'm a music fan. I love music of all shapes and sizes. So, um, Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if people are getting inspired by us. That's great. I love, I get inspired by a lot of other people too. Um, I will never sit here and pretend that I don't. I think a lot of artists pretend like they don't hear anything or see anyone's new song because they're big and popular now. But we see it all. Everyone's glued to their phone all the time. Like anyone that says that they don't know that you're doing stuff is probably lying. Like I think everyone on tour, especially, sits around their phone all the time. So if we are inspiring anyone to do something outside the box, that makes me stoked. Yeah.
How far back do you go with like the Bring Me guys? Like, you're on the new Bring Me album,
Yeah.
right? Was such a huge moment on that record. I loved it. How far back do you go with them?
Um, I think Underoath as a whole goes back to 2017 or 16, 17. And for me, met Ollie and I became buddies when I was doing the Sleepwave stuff. Maybe before Underoath broke up. But I know we played their first win. I did a project during Underoath being broken up. It was called Sleepwave, and it was kind of on the industrial side of hard rock, I guess. A lot of like electronics, but not a lot of screaming. Mostly like rock based stuff. Um, and I played. We played their first Wembley show. When the first time Bring Me headlined Wembley, so we were there and we opened that show because he wanted us there, and we've had a relationship ever since then, if not before. So don't quote me, but probably 2013, something like that.
And how does he reach out to you, or how does this collaboration on this record come together?
Um, I was on vacation with my fiance, and I said no work, comment. Um, we were in Spain, um, and my phone was blowing up in the middle of the night. I was like, what the fuck? And when I looked at it in the morning, it was Ollie, and he had hit me up a couple times. He's like, "I need you on this song, mate. I need you to be on this song." And then, so I got out of bed, and I was like, "Hey, babe, I'm gonna make us breakfast." We were staying in this Airbnb. So I was like, "I'm gonna walk down the." I was in Barcelona. I walked down to this little local mart and got some eggs and some stuff for breakfast. I walked there, listened to the demo twice on the walk there, grabbed the stuff I needed for breakfast, listened to it twice on the walk back, and started cooking breakfast. And I said yes, pretty much immediately because he's my friend. They're I love those guys. Um, and, you know, once I listened to it, I was like, yeah, this rips. I'm excited about it. So, um, I had a short deadline and turnaround, so that's why he was blowing me up so much. But yeah, I just listened to it a few times while I was making breakfast, and then as soon as I got home from vacation, I tracked the vocal. Yeah.
It was special to see that, and just such a big record, and I just love what Bring Me the Horizon is doing as well. But to see you featured on there was really cool, and I really enjoyed the track.
Yeah, it's funny. Me and Ollie have talked about it for years. Like we always have, oh man, we need to do one together. We need to do one together. Oh, we need to do one together. It's like we always just talk about other shit, and then it it, it finally actually happened, and it's funny because we've been talking about it for years. But yeah, it was cool.
It's amazing. And, you have a lot of fans, from the past where you guys were more kind of outspoken about spirituality and things like that, and then in this song, it kind of maybe some people get upset or whatever, is it hard making a change like that in your career where you go from like maybe having some beliefs to talking about maybe your beliefs changing? Is that a difficult thing to go through?
I think for me, I was dealing with, you know, the religious trauma I've experienced a lot growing up. And I think to each their own. I have no problem with people with what they believe in. And I think what your views are, and that's for everyone to have their own personal thing with. And that was kind of my initial problem with the being a Christian man at first, was that like, where do I get off telling people, like, I don't even know who I am? How am I supposed to lead people and tell people what they should be believing in? Like, what freaking 20-year-old boy should lead anybody. Like I feel like as men, we don't even really know who we are until our mid-30s. Like
Agreed.
you know what I mean? Like I think there's a lot of growing up to do, and I think that's a really irresponsible thing to do. And if you're reading and reciting a book, it's like, but you don't really know. It's like you're not really in a place to be leading anybody. And I don't think it was. Am I the wrong guy for the job? I just think it's like I don't think anyone in that age demographic should be leading anyone anywhere like that, unless you're, if you were a gospel band like singing songs about praising Jesus, that would be different. And we weren't. We were writing songs about life
Right.
and writing songs about. We were touring only secular. We weren't doing Christian tours. It was just something we talked about on stage and something that was understood in the band at first. We made that disconnect in 2008 or 9. We started to be like, hey, just so people are aware, like not all of us feel the same way as we did when we were freaking 15 years old. Hopefully that's okay. It's not okay if you're, but yeah, I mean, I don't, I, I think people think that I try to do things just to cause a stir, and I, I'm just being myself and just being a person. I don't think, like, have I ever not cussed in my life since I was 11 or 10 years old? No. I used to get in trouble all the time for it. And I think the fact that people find it crazy that we do in our songs for the last 10 years is like, it's just a word that is an expression and something that we've all said since we were probably in elementary school.
Right.
And I think with the Bring Me song, I think that was another brilliant move that Oli decided to do. Is he wrote that line that everyone's upset about.
Right.
That wasn't my line, but to get, I guess at one point the biggest, when we were a Christian band, deemed not a Christian band anymore, singer to say the line that he wrote, that's probably the most controversial line on the record, is kind of brilliant.
Really is.
Like, and I think when he asked me, he was like, "Hey mate, you all right? Seeing that?" And I was like, "Dude, it's your song. Like, I'm gonna make my suggestions and I'm gonna put my input on it and I'm gonna put my twist on things. But if that's something that you need out of the song and that's the moment you want my voice on it, like, let's go." Like I know, like we knew the backlash was going to be what it was,
Right.
but that's not why we did it. I think he's really smart. I think that was smart, and I don't feel like I was duped into it or I was in the bait. I just think that I was like, what a cool idea. Like, like neither one of us are Christian. Do either of us hate Christians? No. Do we? Was it? Did Is there a deeper meaning in that song? Yeah. Talk to him about it. He'll tell you all about it. Like, um, but yeah, I think that was, we knew where that was coming.
I remember when I heard that, and I started to see people kind of talking about it online, and I kind of thought the same thing. Like they definitely had to have known that was going to cause somewhat of a stir. And I definitely respect the hell out of bands that take those type of creative risks. You're obviously, and this has kind of been a theme through this conversation, that you're not doing things necessarily to please the crowd, which is rare almost.
And also, like, I'm not doing stuff to piss people off either. I'm
Sure.
like, I'm being creative, and I'm being creative with my friends as in Underoath, and I'm also being creative with, I get asked to write on other people's songs a lot. I get asked to collaborate with people a lot. I love collaborating with other people, including the Underoath guys, and there's nothing fun about trying to people please. I think art is always a little bit risky, and when it's safe, it's not interesting. I don't want to look at it. If I go to an art gallery, I don't want to see a safe picture drawn of a white picket fence and Easter eggs. You know what I mean? Like that doesn't appeal to me. I want to see something that maybe makes me feel uncomfortable or makes me feel anxious or makes me feel sad. Or when you go to an art gallery, you're looking for art that makes you feel something, not safe. So yeah, I don't think Underoath has ever been safe. Even when we were a Christian band, I think we were always taking risks.
Yes.
I mean, just as mad as people are about a cuss word on a Bring Me the Horizon song or a cuss word in an Underoath album, like look at the risk we took from chasing safety to define the great line when we were 18-year-old, 19-year-old boys with a record label going, hey, we could really be the next story of the year if we just do this again. We could be like the Used. And like we were like, we want to be Under Oath, and we don't really like how this record necessarily turned out. So we want to make it feel more like how we feel, and we made Define the Great Line. Like I think we've always been that band. I think the fact that anyone's surprised that we're anything but that is weird to me. But I do think the internet is a place full of hate and a lot of loud trolls, and I think you just have to kind of ignore it.
Yes.
And unfortunately, that means I kind of don't see anyone praising the stuff either. As you can tell by my social media, I'm not a very big social media person. I don't have a big following on there. I've never really given it enough time. I try. I go through phases where I kind of try because I'm supposed to, but if I could have it my way, I wouldn't have it at all. It would be fantastic.
Same. Same. I have to have social media. I love it. I enjoy it. I'm thankful for it. But definitely I'm with you that if I could choose like to not have to be on social media at all, I would probably at least do it for like a year or two, I think there's pros and cons because I get to stay in contact with a lot of people that maybe otherwise wouldn't be able to. But
yeah, that's the beauty of it. If a lot of my friends that I don't see or talk to as much anymore, I feel like I know what's going on in their life. But also, social media is you're only sharing the stuff you want people to see.
Sure.
So still check in on your friends, guys.
Yeah,
you never know what's going on.
That's right. I totally agree. And so I want to kind of talk about your musical influences growing up. Like I feel like we're around the same age. Were you like big into the new metal era? Was that kind of when you were coming up? Like what were the bands like as a teenager that you were really into?
So for me it started, so I've got an older brother and two older stepbrothers. So I was lucky because they were all listening. When no one in my grade or my class was listening to cool music or music at all, I was around it. So it started off, my dad was a big Zeppelin guy.
Nice.
And he loved the Beatles, Pink Floyd, Jimi Hendrix, the Rolling Stones. And I was interested in getting a guitar by the time I was in kindergarten.
Whoa.
I probably got my first guitar by first grade, and my dad said I had to learn jazz bass scales, but if I wanted the guitar, I had to prove it. So they got me a bass guitar and they had to cut the scale down. And no one wants to learn bass when you're that young because it's not cool, right? So I had to prove myself. So I took lessons at a really young age. I was learning the scales. And once I got that, I finally got to get a guitar. And I've been playing shows since I was probably 12 years old.
Wow.
Like on stage. So I kind of knew very early on that I was, it's just what I cared about. And sometimes to a fault too. Like music was so much my life that I didn't have another life. I missed out on a lot of stuff. I didn't, I was very, I guess, career driven at a young age, and it was music, and always was. And sometimes at a point where it got in the way of my life. But by the time, elementary school rolled around and middle school, there was the grunge era, that none of my friends were listening to, but I was, because my older brother's 4 years older than me. So I had Soundgarden, I had Nirvana, and I even remember where I was when Kurt Cobain died and how it affected me as a child. I loved Alice in Chains. I loved early Pearl Jam, Stone Temple Pilots, Sonic Youth, the Melvins, all that shit. I loved it. And then that led me into, I remember when my brother got Adrenaline. Before Around the Fur came out, he had Adrenaline.
Go, dude.
And he had Tool Opiate, and he had Tool Undertow. And I remember Adrenaline, I remember very clearly. So there was a phase there that he was listening to like DRI and the Queers and Subhumans and Dead Kennedys that I was kind of into, but that was weird for someone at my age, obviously. And then my ears really perked up because grunge was so important to me. Like the punk phase was cool because of the rebellion, but it was all like from the 70s and 80s. So I was looking back on it, like same with a lot of the grunge stuff too, was before my time, but like I still kind of lived through some of it. And like MTV era,
Right.
but then like, yeah, as in middle school, high school, I remember when I was really young, I remember Adrenaline coming out. Um, or they had it before Around the Fur came out because his best friend at the time was the 13th caller to the radio station and got Around the Fur a week early on tape.
Whoa.
And we used to ride around in their car. And I wasn't old enough. I was in the back seat. They had a two-seater car and I used to lay sideways and they fucking cranked the radio all the way up and we'd ride around listening to that record before it came out, which was really cool. And obviously Linkin Park was a huge one. Nine Inch Nails was a huge one. But Deftones was probably like just like my deep love. But at the same time, I was listening to Radiohead and early Coldplay. I loved. Radiohead would kind of been a staple throughout my whole life. Like I've always been all over the board with different sides of rock music, and I think it's the heaviness. And by heaviness, I don't really mean
Blast beats, right.
I mean like emotionally. Like Radiohead made me feel as dark and sad and like emotionally heavy as Deftones and Nine Inch Nails did. And I think that's something that I guess has always appealed to me. Like from Lane Staley's vocal with Jerry playing that, Jerry speaks with his guitar and Lane's voice to Chino to fucking Trent Reznor to Tom York and like there's even like Chris Martin's early Coldplay stuff is super fucking sad, and it like made me feel something, and I loved it. So yeah, I think I was kind of across the board, just maybe into the sadness.
I love that you say Deftones. They were also one of my all-time favorites. And this past weekend, I was just in Madison Square Garden with Stephen Carpenter, chilling with that man. Like that dude he is the best. I've had him on the podcast, got to hang out with him, just a total legend. So hearing Deftones, I'm right there with you. That band had such a massive impact on me, bro.
And I don't really fanboy at all. Like, I think, but like Chino has kind of become like acquaintance kind of friend. Like we were just overseas doing a lot of festivals at Crosses, and he'd come in our green room and talk to me and like talk to us, and like he's just such a solid dude. And like the little boy though, it like and I'm not one of those guys who's like, man, I used to love you guys. I'm like, no, I still fucking love everything they do. And I love Crosses. I think Crosses' newest record fucking slaps. Like I love his voice. I look up to him. And now that he's an acquaintance for, like peer, and I think that's like those things it just shows you how crazy life is. Like I can remember being in the back of my brother's Honda Prelude in the back seat sitting long ways while they're listening to Adrenaline. Fast forward 20 something years of my life and I'm standing in a green room hanging out with them, having a conversation, playing the same festival. It's life is fucking cool. It's pretty wild. But yeah, Deftones has been one of my favorites my whole life. They've been a huge part of my whole life.
Man, I love to hear that, and that is just so special because they mean so much to me. And Steph Carpenter, just a legend. That guy, getting to hang with him at Madison Square Garden last week was a damn never forget.
Let him know Underoath's a great opening band.
I will text him after this. I give you my word. I literally am going to text him after this and tell him that 100% that we went on a Deftones diatribe today about how sick you guys are.
Well, and about how I've been there since Adrenaline, man, and I love it.
We need Underoath on tour with Deftones for sure. And they're having also one of the things we talked about the other day. Right now, they're the biggest they've ever been, which is so great to see. It's crazy.
The same thing is happening to us, and like we're out here right now. We're on tour with Papa Roach. Same thing is happening to them. I just think heavy music's having this really cool resurgence right now, and we see that. We've seen it. It's like I say this to people all the time. What do you have any advice for the younger bands? Like, yeah, if you can't ride the wave. You know, if you can't tread the water and then you can't ride the wave, right? So like you're gonna like music goes like this, your career's gonna go like this. That's not a testament of how good or bad you are. Like look at the Deftones. They've done this, they've done this, they've
Yep.
done this, they've done and it's but if you zoom way out, it is an upscale.
Yeah.
You know, like but I think it's not a testament of where they are and like are they washed up? Are they old now? Like no, it's just like a good band's a good band. And I think with with music, it's been like when things are down for heavy music, it's up for somewhere else. It's like the stomp, clap, hey music,
Yeah.
the beards, like
Yeah.
catchy
The mustaches with the curls.
yeah, and whatever. If you like that or if you write that, good for you, cool. But when that was at its peak, I think heavy music was at its low, and then like hip hop and went from like underground to like soccer moms are all like it became this huge thing and country music and hip hop being huge, and then all of a sudden as that's kind of maybe leveling out, heavy music's swinging back up again, and I see like bands like Papa Roach. These guys are approaching their 50s and they're at
Legend.
their peak. Like Jacoby walked off stage the other night. I was watching him on the side. He literally walked up in the middle of the song, popped his in-ear out, and said, "This is my favorite tour I've ever been on. This is the biggest tour we've ever done, and I'm so thankful that you guys are out here with us. I couldn't do this without you guys. We fucking love you."
Wow.
Something to that line, and popped his in-ear back up on stage, and didn't miss a note. Like they're the sweetest dudes ever, and they're on their biggest tour ever, and we're just happen to be on it, which is perfect for us with a new record out, like getting to play for. What we were talking about earlier with people like trying to find a way to appeal to more people instead of changing yourself. Like Underoath has always been unforgivably under oath. Um, and it's great when a band like Papa Roach goes, "Hey, we want you guys to come on this tour because for us, not only do we have a new record, but we get to go out there and be us." And it's like playing a festival every night. The only way for your band to grow is to have a TikTok viral moment, a song fly on the radio, or play festivals. Or in a case like this, when I ask a full arena every night of places, we just sold out all these cities on our own tour. How many of you guys have seen Under Oath before? Maybe 1/100th of the people raised.
Wow.
So it's like we're playing for all new people that like heavy music. So that's the way to grow without having to change who you are. And that is a gift that we've only been able to do. We've only been able to get those opportunities like once or twice in our career when you get a tour where we're a headlining band and we get to go out here and open up for a band that's way fucking bigger than we are and play for their audience that also digs heavy music. That's very rare that you get that opportunity. So we go out here swinging, and try to show who we are, putting our best foot forward, playing a lot of new shit and being like, if you sold us off a long time ago, because we were that Christian band that we were little kids. I know if I was in my 30s and I saw a bunch of 20-year-olds preaching at me about what to believe in, I'd be like, yeah, screw those guys. I don't blame them, or they just missed the boat to begin with. We come out here and be like, this is where we're at now, and if you miss the boat, jump on. And if not, no worries. We're still going to come tour through your town next time anyway.
Well, I've seen you guys a couple of times within the last year. And I mean, like you said, the crowds are so strong. So I think that it's amazing to see what you guys are doing right now and the bands that you mentioned, and just kind of seeing that obviously a rising tide lifts all boats. And I like in 2018, 2019, 2020, even, I felt like the genre was almost dying off. It was like sad to see, Warped Tour was going away.
Dude, sorry to interrupt you, but it happened it also happened in like the 2009, 2010 era too. It had a very low moment. I agree. It was like every 10 years, it has this really scary low moment, but I agree. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's like a pendulum that swings. And so to see it kind of on the upswing right now is so great. And it seems like maybe there's some sort of correspondence with like the economy's harder, it's tougher times. And now like maybe that heavy, aggressive, raw sound is finally coming back.
And isn't it weird that like 04, 05, 06, like heavy music was fucking ripping and roaring, and what we're at 24, 25, 26.
Whoa,
it's like that, it's really weird. It's really cool, but I do think yes, pendulum. But do I think it's mapped out? No, but I just think it's a weird coincidence, and hopefully it lasts longer than 3 years for heavy music fans and bands. But yeah, I think it is really, the pendulum does swing. So and you know, I I was really inspired by this. I remember it was during our band was broken up, and I've never been a Def Leppard fan, but I watched their Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction, like induction in the Hall of Fame, and they got up there and they said, they were talking about how they were in arenas, and then Nirvana came out, and the grunge scene took over, and they were back down to playing to like 200 people a night, and then the pendulum swang back, and now that they were, and he was saying as he was taking, he was like, and we're about to leave for our biggest headlining tour to date, bigger than the '80s. And as they were accepting this award, he goes, and people ask me what the secret is. He says, just never give up.
Wow, dude.
And I remember texting that to the guys in the band, and just being like, you've, like I said earlier, like if you can't handle things getting to the, if you don't let that destruct you, like they're like things, it's where music is going, and you just stay true to yourself. You find your audience, and it goes up and down, but you'll always have your audience. You'll always have a wave to catch and ride to the shore if you're being true to yourself and like staying in your lane and doing your shit, and you believe in it. You'll find your audience, and sometimes that wave is fucking the like where Deftones is right now. It's that Portugal wave that you see on Instagram, that huge one that guy catches, and you're like, holy shit, like arenas sold out Madison Square Garden multiple nights in a row. Look at this. And other times it's a wave that's like 500 cap room band or 1,000 cap room band or 2,000 cap room band. It just has its different moments of ups and downs, and you got to be able to roll with it. And you could write your record, your favorite record ever, and it could just be a bad time for heavy music right now. But you just stay true to yourself and don't give up. And eventually, maybe we'll all be like that Def Leppard thing, that once it comes back, it never leaves. I hope it never leaves for Papa Roach. I hope it never leaves for Deftones. I hope it stays up, because now they've been a band long enough to where they deserve for it to stay up. Like be that headlining band on all those massive festivals. Be that Metallica size, Slipknot size, that fucking pinnacle band. And hopefully for us, like we're seeing our stuff growing every time. Hopefully we get, in the next few years, we get to a point where it never goes back down again, and it just stays up. But I think it's an inspiring thing to see. Like I'm out here on tour with these guys telling me this is their biggest tour ever. When we started this, there was kind of an ageism thing in the industry where once you were over your 20s and into your 30s, we don't want you anymore. We're not going to sign a 30-year-old man. What is that? We need 18 to 27, whatever that was, whatever that initial, businessman that knows nothing about music and is just signing entertainers or whatever it is, to see it now, living through it and being like, I remember there was a time where I thought if we didn't have another success before we're 30, we're fucked, seeing things now and just being like, dude, this is so sick to be on tour with a band that's been a band since I was in middle school, having their biggest tour ever right now. And that's inspiring to me. Whether you're a Papa Roach fan or not, I don't care. If you're not inspired by that and you're a musician, then you're not paying attention. Like, it's so dope, like to see dudes that like I said before we started this, they're really good people, and I think that's a huge part of their success. Being good to people and being a good person, being true to who you are, and then that on top of just never giving up. And they've Papa Roach has been unforgivably Papa Roach since day one, and it's working out for them. And they're at a peak right now, and I hope it keeps going for them. And I hope it keeps growing for them, or at least stays up here, because it's so sick to see. So awesome.
I totally agree. I couldn't agree more. And look, we've been going for about an hour. You're on tour now, dude. I could talk to you for 3 hours about your entire career, but I just want to say congratulations on the brand new record. Congratulations on all the success. And I've been a fan of your music for like 20 years, dude. So, it's an honor to have you on, and I really appreciate you opening up today, because this is a fantastic episode.
Yeah, thank you, man. And I hope everyone can listen to the new record, with open, that all you really really want is people to listen to things with open ears and an open mind, and it's hard. It's even hard for us, you know? It's like when Metallica releases a new song, you go into it with Metallica earmuffs on, don't you?
Yep.
You do, so do I. You know,
Yep.
same with Nine Inch Nails, same with Deftones. It's like, and I get that. It's hard to take that away. But like, you know, I think trying to digest music of like, what is this? What am I listening to right now? What is this art that I'm hearing right now is it's kind of a fun experiment that I try to do because there's been bands, some of my favorite bands have released records that I didn't really necessarily dig at first, and then I finally took myself out of the equation and what I thought I wanted to hear, try to be like, why did they make this choice, or why did they make this song, or why did this, and you just start listening again, and then you just go, holy shit, like, you know, like I'm not Maynard, and why did Maynard make that choice? And it's really cool, and then you start to be like, man, is Fear Inoculum my favorite Tool record now? Maybe.
Wow.
Like
That,
when it first like when that record first came out, I was like, I waited 12 years for this and I don't get it and I don't think I like it. But I kept trying, and then I think it was on like the fifth or sixth listen, it blew my mind. And then I couldn't get it out of my fucking I had it in my I listened to it like every day for like a year straight at least. And still when I'm like, hey, let's put on Tool, like we always at least put on some songs from the new record too, because I think it fucking rips. And at first I didn't get it. You know? I
there's a
think
lot
it's
of bands like that, I think, too, where it's like an acquired taste, so to speak.
yeah. And I like being challenged. I like the like, whoa, I wouldn't have done that. Well, good, because I'm not in the band, you know, like I think it's cool that they, you know, that and then you like start to kind of look at it in a different light and like, man, that's fucking cool. Wow. Like I wouldn't have done that. That's inspiring. So yeah.
Well, in the age of like artificial intelligence and stuff like this, it's nice to see bands really like writing music from the soul and making, you know, tough decisions and not worrying about what people think. And that is definitely what Underoath is doing out here. So so much respect to you. I really appreciate you
Thank
making
you.
time, especially from the road. You could be, I mean, you're on a huge tour with Papa Roach right now. So it really means a lot for you to be here today.
Dude, thanks for having me, man.